Hello, my name is Lee Addison. You're watching episode 14 of the Rugby League Coach podcast. For some reason, people are still looking at this on YouTube. They are listening to it on Spreaker, Spotify, what's the other one? Apple, and iHeartRadio. I am with Raneel Kumar, who the other week was called Keneal Rumor by Joel, our soccer coach. Keneal, how are the rumours around Sydney?
My lawyer told me not to comment.
Good, just plead the fifth. The fifth. And we have once again our stalwart, our weekly man of the moment, Taylor Llewellyn-Brown. What's going down?
Not much, mate. I've just made a snap decision to get rid of the glasses. I don't know where that's going to lead me, but
you know what?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm going to do the same too.
My word.
I'm going to do the same too.
A couple of very blind men.
This is, people have been asking me what's the difference between the podcast and the Facebook Lives I'm doing now, Taylor, and please, you verify this for our listeners and viewers. We literally don't prepare this, do we? We just share topic and we just talk absolute crap for an hour, basically. This is us in the raw.
Well, with your Facebook Lives, I think that you communicate with people. Everyone sends their things in via comments.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah.
With this, there's no external. It's just three blokes, sometimes four, sometimes whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just talking a bit of smack for an hour.
Yeah.
And there's no one steering us. We do what we do. And today, you said, I'll send through some topics. I sent through one, and then I said, what do you reckon? And then you sent through another. And that's literally how this podcast gets built. So
yeah, my notes are, these are my notes for this event. Salary cap. Can't even read them. Teams clocking off. And finals football. There you go. That's my notes. That's it. For the Facebook Live in the morning, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A4 pages, and I've found some facts and this, that, and the other. So if anybody wants to know the difference, then so this is literally us in the purest form. Right. Tim may join us. He was keen to join us, so he may join us soon. I'll just deal with you guys first. In one word, salary cap, fan or not? Taylor?
Not a fan.
Raneel?
Not a fan.
Okay. Me? Not a fan. So, so much for balance. Okay. Raneel, I'll start with you, if that's okay. I'm putting my glasses back on, Taylor. Hi. Go, Raneel. Salary cap, why not?
Why not? I think it holds back our game. I just think it will open doors for more money to come in and expand the game. I think there's some missed opportunities there. Don't you think?
Taylor?
I do think there are missed opportunities. The biggest reasoning in my head is that the salary cap is put into play to make it even. So all teams get the same amount of money. They can spend it on players, and it's supposed to even out the competition. Well, look at the past weekend, and you tell me how even our competition really is.
We've got that as a topic as well. I mean, there's a few reasons for that, isn't there, Taylor? Or a few potential reasons.
Yeah, definitely a few potential reasons. Absolutely. But if you go pound for pound, the Rooster squad and the Tigers squad, you tell me that the salary cap evens things up.
Yeah.
Now, there's always going to be people in head office that, or wherever it is, that make decisions on players that spend too much money. You hear reports about clubs regularly needing to offload players, like the Bulldogs for next year. Supposedly need to offload some players to stay under their salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
You ask the question, how?
Yeah.
With the season they've had, yes, Mick Potter's done some really good things. He's turned their season around, definitely, for sure. But how are they spending that much money at the club, whereas you've got clubs like, the Roosters, Melbourne Storm, who have just the Roosters had more money to spend. They picked up Oliver Gildart for the rest of the year. Melbourne picked up David Nofaluma for the rest of the year. So not only do they have the better playing squads with really good, obviously high amounts of money going in the right direction, but they have like a bank just in case they need to pick up someone at the end of the year if they're a bit thin somewhere. So,
sorry, can I just interject there? Before we go any further into analysing it, I want to dissect your comments pertaining to the Roosters Storm versus your Dogs and the Tigers. I think, we've not seen the finances of any of the clubs, but the rumour is that the Roosters, a lot of the players take unders to stay at the Roosters. When Manly was successful, a lot of players took unders to stay at Manly to win the Premiership. And I'm just getting a text off Tim. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, mate. Yeah, you can jump in. Tim can jump in. Tim's on his way in. Whereas I think Tigers and the Bulldogs, I think traditionally they may have thrown too much money at a few players and not enough at others. And that brings a poor culture to your dressing room, I think. Okay. So that's that. Taylor, I want to ask you, we spoke to the listener and the viewer earlier and said what we do regarding our subjects. You brought up the salary cap this week. What was it that made you bring it up this week? Well, something's obviously happened, Taylor.
I don't like the salary cap in all levels of football. I don't. Yeah. And by all levels, I mean the Host Plus Cup.
Yeah.
New South Wales in safe hands. I forget what it's called. Sorry. The Knock-On Effect Cup. The Knock-On Effect New South Wales Cup.
Yeah.
They have salary caps as well.
Yeah.
I think with salary caps, especially in those lower tier competitions, you're pushing players away. You're pushing them away into other competitions or other areas of their life. I think it's stunting the growth and, can I say, the competitiveness of rugby league from the ground up. There's not enough players in Queensland Cup and New South Wales Cup of the quality because they're not allowed to be paid enough.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to be paid enough. The Toowoomba competition has some great players in there. Why? Because there's no salary cap. They can get paid whatever they want. The Gold Coast Rugby League has some great players knocking around. Why? Yeah. Because there's no salary cap and they can get paid 100%. Good money. The same as you have in New South Wales, the Illawarra comp, the Newcastle comp, all these players, all these competitions have a lot of really quality players that get paid a lot of money that are not playing in the second best competition in Australia. All right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have those good players in those competitions, they might not play NRL, but they're making the competition tougher and hardening our future NRL players whilst they're there. They're making it a better competition and a tougher competition for those players to foster in. I think the salary cap in those competitions is actively affecting the quality and skill of player that we are churning out and pushing into the NRL. And I think that is stunting the growth of our game and hurting us in a way that we'll feel in the next 10 to 20 years.
I think you've worded it excellently there, mate. But if I can, I'll come back to you in a moment because we have been joined by the Sergeant, Timothy Cheeseman. How are you, sir? You've chopped your hair?
Yes, mate. Good evening, gentlemen.
Jeez, look at him.
I'm concerned.
He's got the medallion on, and
I'm concerned with the angle that we've got of Tim here. Like, where's the phone? You know what I mean?
I bet he's got a big hairy chest rug under there too. Salary cap, one word answer, yes or no?
Yes.
Or fan or not?
For the NRL, yes. For the
one word answer, I said. One word answer.
I said yes.
And then you added another 6 words. Yeah, go on. Go on.
It works. I think it works for the NRL, but I don't think your second tiers and your third tiers should be, as Taylor just said, like it stunts the growth of those competitions.
Okay, so you've walked in late to 3 people who don't like the salary cap, Tim. You're the only one who does. So we're all going to gang up on you. And please, I would like you to cross-pollinate here. So I would like Taylor, you to talk directly to Tim. Raneel, you talk directly to Tim. You know, if you need to, leave me out, whatever. But I'm gonna come up with a couple of things. Sonny Bill Williams had to go elsewhere to earn the money that he deserves. Once he left rugby league, he became a person that was very well known all around the rugby world. He's one name that links everybody to the oval-shaped ball, Sonny Bill Williams. When he came back to the Roosters, their crowds went up something chronic because Sonny Bill Williams was back in the team. That's one example, and one, I assume is a very big one-off in many ways. Players like Paul Gallen, they had to supplement their career or get the money that they think they deserve out of their body while it's still young enough by going to do things like boxing. A lot of our NRL players do boxing now. There's a lot of fringe NRL players who do that too. They are trying to maximise their money. My question to you, Tim, and bear in mind I've got two of my mates who agree with me. If in your street where you live, the mayor put in a rule that regardless of what you earn, there is a limit to how much you can spend on clothes, food, decor in your house, would you agree to that?
No.
Why should the clubs agree to it, Raneel?
I don't think they should.
No.
My question is to you, Tim. My question is to you is how does a Bulldogs fan, how does a Tigers fan, how does a Titans fan see a way for their club to push through the issues they have right now with a salary cap? They've spent their salary cap or a large portion of it for the next 2 to 3 years on their contracts. If there were no salary cap in place and you had someone really smart in the board or in the back of house at the Titans, and they went to lots of big companies on the Gold Coast and said, guys, we want to turn the Titans into a powerhouse. We want to do this. We want long-term success here at the club. We want this. To do that, we're going to need to bring a premiership. To do that, we need big-name players. And they got a core group of sponsors, and they said, right, we're going to go after James Tedesco, Latrell Mitchell, Cameron Munster. We're going to get a lot of these players and put them in a side and bring success to that area. They could effectively turn the fortunes of that side around in 1 to 2 years, tops, with no other real changes in coaching staff or anything like that. You could bring real quality players to that club almost immediately by the injection of some really good money from sponsors. You are giving the fans an opportunity year to year to see a notable difference in their side. Now, can you imagine if the Titans right now were putting their hat in the ring for Cameron Munster the year after?
Yep.
Can you imagine how excited those fans would be? It's in Southeast Queensland. It's where he supposedly wants to be. The Dolphins are in the race. Brisbane have said they want to do it as well. They have the money there. You don't hear anything out of the Titans. You don't hear anything out of the Bulldogs, who would probably they would value a player like Cameron Munster. How excited would the fans of the Titans be right now if they thought, well, this bloke, whatever his name is, that owns something, has come in and said, I'm a massive Titans man and I want Munster here and I'll do anything I can to get him there. Wouldn't that be exciting? Wouldn't that be the talk of the town? That would inject so many more fans of rugby league, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't really understand with the third party endorsements and all of that sort of stuff, because you've got guys on massive money and they can get away with third party endorsements and that sort of stuff, and others can't. Is it just the way that it's worded in the contracts and that sort of stuff? I don't know. I've never seen any of their any sort of rugby league contracts or had anything to do with that.
I think they've got to be declared.
They've got to be declared.
Yeah.
They've got to be separate from the club. The club can have nothing to do with it. That's why Parramatta got in trouble. There was internal emails that saw they were negotiating third-party agreements on behalf of the player and the sponsor. They were connecting those issues. But I guarantee you there are third-party agreements going on now. So I ask you, Tim, which third-party sponsor sponsors Latrell Mitchell?
I wouldn't have a clue. There's so many. There's so many of them.
What about James Tedesco?
James Tedesco. I think one of it is that Uber Eats or something.
Oh, Menulog. Yeah, he's been on some of those ads, hasn't he? So, right. So he's got one of the biggest names now at the game. Latrell Mitchell, didn't know. James Tedesco, you guessed because you saw him in an ad. Wouldn't these sponsors like to be a little bit more well known? come out and look. What's that bloke from Super League league that I'm thinking? Marwan Kukash.
Yeah.
Look at that bloke.
Chairman of Salford, yeah.
He just come in with all the money in the world, said, I don't care about any of these rules. I'm doing what I want. And a part of that is the notoriety of saying, I've got this money and I'm spending it here.
Yeah, and I think he got frustrated with the sport, mate. He basically walked away from the sport.
So that's my argument is these third-party deals, they're not known. No one knows who they are. And I don't know, Lee, you may be able to shed light on this. Do they have to stay in the dark about what they're doing with the NRL players, or can they come out and say we've got a third-party agreement in place with James Tedesco?
I won't pretend to know. So
yeah,
I'll try and find out for our podcast listeners in future.
I just think if you're a big sponsor or a big money player and you want to pump up a club and you want that to be known that you are actively supporting your local NRL team and what they do.
100%.
And I may be wrong in saying they have to keep it quiet, but just with my little knowledge of the situation, I will admit that you don't hear who has those third-party deals, and I don't know if that's a silencing thing where they're not allowed to. But I say open it up, give them the voice, give them the platform. If I knew that a local bloke down the road who's a real estate agent, right, was putting in a certain amount of money to the Dolphins, when I next go to buy a house or go to sell a house, I'd go to him because I know his money is pumping into the side that I support. I would do that as a local bloke. I would.
Yep.
Because I want to see the Dolphins succeed next year. I want to see them succeed the year after that. So,
anything more on the salary cap, Tim, that you want to sort of put in favour? Because I do feel that this discussion has been heavily towards no salary cap. So please, if you still, unless we've changed your mind.
I just look at when it came in, it was even across the board. I felt that it was fairly even. Over the last couple of years, the third-party endorsements and all of that sort of stuff that have been kept quiet, but you've got players that are staying with the same club. They're taking less salary, but they're staying at the same club. When someone's offering them twice the amount of money, over the last 2 years, it hasn't really been working. But before that, I thought it was really good. It kept an even check on the amount of money that you could spend on players.
So where Tim's going to now, I think, is a perfect segue, boys, into our next topic. In the NRL at the weekend, we've had Women in League round, we've had Indigenous round, we've had Retro round. I think this weekend we had Cricket Score round. Because some of the games, the Broncos flogged by Melbourne. The West Tigers absolutely pumped by the Roosters. You'll have to remind me of some others. My mind's gone blank. But
Cowboys,
there was
Warriors.
Cowboys, that's right. Cowboys, Warriors.
Sharks, Manly.
I think, boys, I'm going to put it to you that some of those teams have clocked off, right? So that's why I think it's happened. Right? I'm not going to say the salary cap is to blame. I'm going to say I think the players have clocked off, and I think there are reasons for that. But because I'm hosting, it's about your opinions. Tim, why were there cricket scores at the weekend? In just a couple of words, just to get us going and get everyone knowing where we're at. Why do you think some of those games blew out at the weekend?
Players have just had enough
of the season.
The season, yeah, they've had too much of a bad season. Injuries have been shocking. The only team that didn't really have major injuries concerned were the Broncos.
Raneel?
What was the question?
Your Dragons nearly won.
Yeah, they did win.
Oh, they did. Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I mean, like, if you were to offer these players an extra $1 million, do you think they're going to be continuing playing in the form that they've been playing? And
well, he's just answered the question with a question, Tyler. It depends. It depends on
classic.
Well, you've heard of the old performance and incentives in sport. In this game, boys, and you get an extra 500. So it depends how the contract's structured.
I don't like them, but anyway, that's a different topic for a different day.
Taylor Llewellyn, why did the scores blow out this weekend?
I think player complacency is certainly one part of it. I think if you look at the clubs individually, you could probably get a little bit of an understanding of where they're coming from. The Warriors, I believe that's complacency in my eyes.
Yeah.
Within that squad, I think that they certainly don't have a side that should be losing by 40 odd points to the Cowboys. They're not the best side in the world, but that's just a flogging. I believe there was complacency there. The Storm and the Broncos, I don't see that as complacency because the Broncos still have a lot to play for. There is an outside chance they still miss the 8. I think the Storm are just very good and they're turning things up on the way into the semi-finals. The Sea Eagles, I think the last couple of weeks are starting to hit them. They can't make the 8. The saga with the 7, I think there's internal rifts at Manly. I don't necessarily think it's player complacency across the board, Lee.
Yeah.
I think that's fairly harsh to some of those sides. Yeah. The Tigers, I would like to say, have well and truly clocked off. 72 points to 6.
Yeah.
In the NRL, you can't defend that at all. I don't think, there's almost a point a minute in that game. I don't think there's any way to defend that.
What I'm going to do now, I'm going to mention a few of the theories that have been bandied about. And I'm going to come to each one of you and say, what do you reckon? I'll start with you, Raneel, on this. The modern player is to blame. People don't focus on anything for a long time now. And when it is no longer important to them, they drop it. So in rugby league terms, this might be, we're not playing for anything. No point winning. We're not going to make the finals. No point trying. What do you think of that theory?
My feeling is going towards no.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't think a player would feel like that. Okay. I mean, I don't know. Normally you don't get into this sport because it's just another job. Normally, players do have that passion, built in them. Mm-hmm. So that's really hard for me to believe. And I think being biased-wise, I think I sort of hope that's false as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Tim, your thought on that?
No, I'm the same. I'd hate to see that. That you see them playing the game they love. So,
Taylor,
I don't think they're actively saying that. I don't think they're actively saying, "Well, I'm not interested because I can't make the semis." But I do believe their actions are speaking louder than their thoughts at the moment. I think you'll find at those clubs players that would traditionally get up early and go for a swim or a stretch or do something like that. I think they're not doing that anymore because they know they can't make the semis.
Okay.
You might find them not doing ice bars, not doing rehab properly, things like that.
Good point, yeah.
And I don't think they're actively saying, I don't care because I can't make the semis, but I believe their actions would be saying, from the outside in, that would be what you say about someone that's in a professional environment, aka if I was going on holiday in 2 weeks at my job and I was going home at 1 o'clock every day, not doing the little things to make sure that I was all over my proverbial shite. You think it'd be fair to say for the boss to say, well, mate, you don't care because you're not going to be here.
Yeah.
May not be the case. I'm just being complacent.
Mate, you've made some great points tonight. I'm being genuine there. You're really on fire.
Thank you, Lee.
The next point. No, honestly, I mean, I'm not being sarcastic. You are. You're going really well tonight.
Don't get used to it, Taylor.
I know.
No.
Jeez, that's the last time I compliment you.
Raneel, I'll tell you a story after we finish this point. Once we're at the end of the podcast, Ask me about Lee purposely beating me down in a moment of joy. I've got the perfect example.
Is it suitable for family listening and viewing?
It is.
Okay, well, I'm happy for it to be on the pod as long as I'm not going to be incriminated too bad, right? So, next one. Start with you, Taylor Llewellyn, my favourite ever student, my favourite ever podcast co-host. There's not enough talent, and one of the reasons is we got rid of the under-20s. By the way, the first theory, Gus Gould, 100% footy last night. I watched the first 10 minutes before. Second theory, not enough talent. As soon as they got rid of the 20s, that was a problem. Taylor, I'll start with you.
I don't think getting rid of the 20s was the problem. I believe that there is enough talent in the NRL I just don't believe there is enough talent in the game. I don't believe we're fostering it right and pointing it in the right direction. AKA my first point of the night. I think we're pushing away players once they get past the 23, 24-year-old stage and they haven't started making decent money. We're pushing them away and therefore weakening our own systems.
You're even linking your points together now. Wow. Tim?
Yeah, I agree. It's the...
Are you going to do your thinking face again like you did last week?
You have to think before you speak, Lee.
For those who are listening, I am just mimicking Tim's face now, which is like scrunch your eyes up. And
that's a good point, hilarious. Tim. That's a good point, Tim. Lee, sometimes you do have to think before you speak, all right?
You could have told me 43 years ago when I was born.
47.
Timothy.
I don't believe that it's because of not having the under-20s. There just seems to be, if a player is 18, 19, the NRL clubs are trying to grab them. They're not sort of looking at the older players. Look at Hosgood from the Broncos. He was mid-20s before he was signed.
Yeah.
He's been playing brilliant football. And just because of his age, the clubs can't seem to get the distance out of his legs. They're trying to keep people around 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And then once they're 24, 25, they don't seem to be getting these massive big contracts and everything like that. I think that the game is trying to push them out, and where you've got in the BRL, just having a look in the BRL and watching some of those games, some of the best quality players they're a little bit older because they've gone through all of the really, really hard stuff as a younger kid. They've sorted themselves out, and then they're ready for a mature age going into the NRL. You don't have any of the stupid responses from an 18, 19-year-old. You won't be going out on the grog and all of that sort of stuff. So the players have matured, and you can say, rightio, this is what our system is.
I'm going to skip you, Raneel, for that question because time's getting on a little bit, but I'm going to start with you on the next one, right? So don't take it personally. That point was also Gus Gould on 100% Footy, which I watched the first 10 minutes just before this show. The third point, lazy recruitment managers, not scouting enough players. That's why the teams are worst in the bottom half of the ladder. Raneel, Kumar.
Oh, yeah, I do believe that. But, I mean, but can you really blame the scouts either, too? Like, you don't really know what they're given, what their situation is, how much support they get. But
yeah, a lot of them don't have the resources to put out a real scouting network. I think there's a learned laziness is the term we use, in that when you've been doing a job for so long and staying in a job for so long, So, I mean, that's certainly a thing. Tim, as quick as you can, though, because I want to try and move on to the next topic if I can.
I believe so, yeah, because there's other avenues to go out and have a look out bush, and that I just don't think they've got the resources.
And it's also around the world. I mean, can you imagine how many people in different countries in Ukraine, Russia, and whatnot who could certainly turn into good rugby league players? Lazy recruiters, Taylor Llewellyn.
I don't think they're lazy. I think they head out to all the things they're told to head out to. I just think our clubs are targeting too young. I think because of clubs like the Roosters in the juniors, where they don't actually have juniors, they scout from all the other places in Sydney to get an SG Ball and a Harold Matthews team.
Yeah,
I think practices like these from NRL clubs are forcing recruiters to sign from younger ages and try to look for gems in the 14s, 15s, 16s, 17s. And I don't believe our recruiters are in a habit of looking for people past an age group, which is why I believe that the under-20s the finishing of the under-20s has not affected the football, and like that, we should have kept it. I think the whole game has an attitude that if you don't make it past a certain age, you're done. And I think we would just neglect all these kids. And that's why people at the age of 23 and 24 are leaving and going somewhere else, because they think there's no way they can play NRL anymore.
The lad's on fire tonight. That theory was from a great man, one of the finest coaches of our generation, in fact, many generations.
He says Lee Addison right now.
Mate, you said it, not me. That's my theory. I think lazy was probably too strong a word. I think people naturally get lazy when they've been in a job for a while, right? So there's a lot of people who've been in jobs for a while. And by laziness, I mean, so imagine you've got trials and you go district and then the playoff for the region. A lot of recruiters just go straight to the final team for the region. Your MCEC, your MCS, your Met East, your Met West, whatever. They don't go to the trial before the trial. So what they're doing is they're allowing somebody else to cut a load of people out of the process. And a lot of them just zoom in on the 20 that are selected. Now, what happens if you're player 21, 22 or 23 in that system when you were injured or missed or whatever? And I can promise you some of the trial processes at some of these places are disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So I think that's one thing. Number two, it's about resources as well. The game just can't sustain, a recruitment manager going to every little nook and cranny of Australia to look for someone. But I think a lot of them, so God rest his soul, People Holland was excellent at this, and there are other recruitment managers that are excellent too. There's a few that spring to mind. I think Melbourne have got one of the best, obviously, but I'm not going to start listing all the good ones so that nobody gets upset about not being on the list and think they're a bad one. But People Holland knew everyone everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And the whole saying you've got 6 degrees of separation from anybody. Well, from People Holland, from school, you've got 1.5. Like, honestly, everybody knew him. Everybody. And I am talking, I've popped up in some of the weirdest rugby league places ever, and they know People Holland. So, what I'm going to do now, gents, if this is okay, we're going to do some quick fire topics. I found a couple of new things on the internet while we've been talking, but Taylor, you said you had to tell a story to everyone. So what better way of bringing this in than I was just talking about a St. Gregory's legend, People Holland, and I assume you're going to talk about a St. Gregory's story. Let's go.
I am. I'm talking about a time when Lee found me at my happiest place in life, recognised that I may have needed a little bit of a peg down, and took advantage of a situation. So I'd not long been selected for a schoolboy side, a New South Wales schoolboy side. And to say I thought I was probably the hottest property in town was an understatement. I thought I was the bee's knees, its legs, and its arms. Anyway, we played against, in Lee Addison's terms, wheelie bins with bricks in it on one Wednesday. I think we won 70-odd points to nil. It was a massacre. And we went into a video session and I thought I was the best and I needed a peg down. So Lee put up a 5-minute lowlights of footage. And I'm sitting at the back,
tackles. And,
I'm sitting at the back of the classroom thinking I'm the man, front row for the school. And Lee's put up a 5-minute lowlight saying, "This is your New South Wales schoolboys."
Yeah, well, that's exactly what. Look at it, New South Wales.
This is Mr.
Boys.
This is Mr. CCC himself. Don't think he's just pumping up my tyres because he used to be my teacher. Because when he was my teacher, he was doing anything to pump up my tyres. I will put a disclaimer out there. I did need it at the time, and it did bring me back to it. But
absolutely, the funny thing, boys. The funny thing about me and Taylor, how well we get on now as adults, and we really do. As a student and teacher back in the day, we clashed something chronic. A student coach, whichever way, we clashed something chronic, and probably because we have
to the
similar
point where
personalities in many ways.
At graduation, Lee come up to me and shook my hand when I graduated and said, I hope one day you realise that all the things I did to you, I did because I was trying to teach you some lessons.
That's sweet.
And so Don't get me wrong.
I'm getting emotional.
If I wasn't in a school uniform, I would have told him to meet me at the back of the dairy. But
it's on Maradona kid style.
But anyway, quick fire. Hit us with it. And remember, Tim, quick fire. All right.
Oh, yeah, you remember Tim. I'm going to start with you, Timothy. You're my new favourite. James Tamau is playing in the last game. At the weekend, he told the ref he was effing incompetent. Good bloke, James Tamau. Never met him, but I know enough about him from several things to know he's a legend of a bloke, and he was definitely contrite straight after. However, he's free to play in the last game, so I think there's 2 rounds left, and he's free to play in one of them. Your thoughts on that? That's come through in the last minute or 2.
I honestly believe no, he shouldn't, because they've put a rule in the sand saying you back chat to a ref, minimum time. Yes, I take my hat off to him. He apologised. Good on him, but we want younger kids not to have a go at refs. And at the moment, refs are getting abused left, right, and centre because they're seeing the NRL guys do it, and they're not getting. There's no real big severe punishments.
Great.
And I'm sorry, but they've got to put a rule in. If you have a go at a ref, go on. Sorry for a couple of weeks.
Does anybody disagree with Tim?
No, I categorically agree. To the point where in junior football, if I saw a referee making a bad decision that was blatantly a bad call, I'd still stick up for him. I think the abuse that the referees cop at a junior level is directly affecting the number of applicants you have there.
Yep.
And then we're going to get less and less referees into the future because of it. So I agree. There should be a minimum ban involving with abusing the referee. It should be long-term. It should be non-negotiable.
Yep.
Raneel, want to add anything?
I think you guys summed it up perfectly.
Okay, well, you'll like to answer this question first. This quickfire one, well, this quickfire point.
Yep.
The Dragons. It's come through today from the Sydney Morning Herald that they had an 11th hour bid to sign Cameron Ciraldo as a coach before he signed with the Bulldogs.
Oh, I did not know this.
So, first question, would you have liked Cameron Ciraldo as your coach at the Dragons?
Well, I personally don't. I actually like the idea of long-term coaches. So, and I'm pretty happy with Anthony Griffin. Like, I think the success of a club goes more than just the coach. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm pretty happy with Anthony Griffin.
All right, brilliant. And the second question to you, buddy: what does this mean for Anthony Griffin's future?
I think there's still a lot of pressure on him, because a lot of what I'm saying right now, I'm sure a lot of St. George fans disagree. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Anthony Griffin knows that more than anyone else. So yeah, just as any NRL coach, his job's on the line, I guess. Taylor, do you want to add anything?
I am in a bit of a position where I've met and had many discussions with Anthony Griffin. Actually signed a 2-year contract to play underneath him at the Dolphins.
Wow.
And one of the key support staff that I played at the Dolphins and was the strength and conditioner and the main trainer is now the main trainer at the Dragons.
Yep.
I believe they have a good coaching structure there. I believe that they're the right men for the job. I like the Dragons. I grew up a Dragons fan. I, with all my heart, want the Dragons to be one of the first clubs to dig their heels in, keep a coach and start putting some responsibility on players. I don't know if that's going to happen or start putting some responsibility on the board. So I think they're the right men for the job. In saying that, if my current 5'8" is young Isaiah Katoa or someone like that, is my current 5'8" is, I don't know, any 5'8" in the comp that's not the best, and Cameron Munster came available, I would still put a $1.3 million bid in for Cameron Munster. They obviously thought there was something better on the market. They went for it. It is what it is.
Tim?
Yeah, no, nothing else.
All right, sweet. Okay, the final topic we're going to talk about today, boys, is finals football. Okay, now, it's one thing talking about the bad teams in the NRL getting whooped, but there's also some good teams that are trying to win the title in the next few weeks. I'm not sure, Raneel, if you can add anything from a playing or coaching point of view in finals. Tim, have you played or coached in any finals?
I've played in 2 finals.
Rugby league or different?
Yeah, rugby league.
Okay. I'll go with you first, Tim. What do you remember about them? What's different about finals games?
Different kettle of fish.
Did you play against fish?
No.
Oh.
I played up in the territory, up in Darwin.
So that's what I mean. I mean, there's plenty of fish around there, yeah.
The season was hard, but the finals, it was more intense. But
okay,
I had a lot more fun.
Stop. Intense. So just for those who have hearing slightly, it's not intense, as in tents that you put up and camp in.
Can be.
Intense. Define the intensity. What was different, Tim? So drill down on it a bit. What was different?
It was quicker.
Yeah.
The tackles were harder.
Yeah.
And you ran harder.
Yeah.
You had to think a lot quicker to what was going on. I loved it.
Taylor Welling Brown. I know for a fact you've played in a grand final for me. So we can include that. And I know that you did a bit with Redcliffe, didn't you, in finals?
Yeah, I played in the 2016 grand final against Burleigh, which we lost.
What about 20s?
No final series.
Okay. So you've got some experience though. So you've got finals, grand final experience.
There is certainly an electricity in the air. I can remember bits in all of those finals and grand finals where I almost had an experience where I was like, I need to bite down on my mouth guard because I'm going to remember this for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And the way it was almost a surreal moment at the time. It's very hard to describe how electrifying finals football really is.
Yeah.
And it's not just the game. It's not just the moments in the game. Yeah. It's just the weeks leading up. At Redcliffe, in the week before the grand final, there was people legitimately in Redcliffe painting their houses red and white. One lady had our team list written out on her window for the grand final.
But Taylor wasn't in the team in that one.
Yes, I was. I was number 23. I think it was everyone on the bench. Everyone on the bench that year was me, Christian Hazard, Tyson Clear, Brandon Lee. Anyway, we decided that we wanted to all have our numbers in the 20s. So the club had to dust out the bloody jerseys they hadn't used all year. And we all played the game with, anyway, different story. But the intensity of finals will never really be matched in any other game. And I think it's that intensity that can make or break finals campaigns and games. And because they're too hard to recognize them and they're so hard to control it, I think this is a big reason why I think the Roosters will win the comp. They have a lot of players in that side that are used to performing in those big moments and they know what it takes to get the job done. Because it is different. It is very different.
The Para have enough?
I don't believe so. I don't think Para have enough. They do have big game experience, don't get me wrong. I just don't think they have enough big game experience. If you look at their spine, Moses and Gutherson have played an Origin game each. No grand final experience. And they're probably the leaders of the side. Reid Marnie's a great young hooker. I think the Eels are due for a campaign where they come very close, but no cigar.
Cigar, kettle of fish.
That's beautiful.
I just think
electricity. Imagine them being mixed in the same bowl.
It's what you call a Saturday night.
Raneel.
Yes.
I come from a country where semi-finals and a final were introduced in 1998 to Super League.
Yes.
For the previous 100 and something years, we had first past the post, which is a league table where everyone plays each other home and away, and whoever finishes top wins the comp. We still have that now in arguably the biggest sports competition in the world, the English Premier League football, soccer. Who's the better team? The team that has played everybody home and away an equal amount and finish top of a table, or the team that finishes 5th but manages to get through and win the grand final?
Oh, so tough. I'm glad you didn't write my HSC.
I should have ended that question with discuss. Do you want me to come back to you, Raneel?
That's a tough question.
I'll come back to you, mate, until you've listened to the other guys. Tim?
Yeah,
Yeah, wow. I'm trying to think of something.
I think it's the men who stand up at the right time that are the better side, with it all on the line. I think with all the pressure, with all the issues, everything that piles on top, all the weeks lead up, I think it's the men that stand up at that time that I look from the outside in and I'm more in awe of. I think if you look through who we consider the best to have played our game, you look at Johns, Lewis, Slater, Lockyer, they were all known to stand up in the big moments. Yeah. And I think the way that we structure our final series and having that instead of a first past the post is a nod to the history and what we all value in those players. And I believe our system is currently the best system because it gives a moment for those moments.
In support of the final six. Sorry, mate. I thought you'd finished. Sorry. Have you?
I was building suspense.
In support of the final series in the NRL, they actually don't play each other home and away twice. Equal amount. No. Some teams play each other once, so it's actually not a fair comp in that regard. So the finals is not a bad thing. Imagine a team wins it from 8th. If you finish 8th, that's mid-ladder mediocrity. Right? If you finish 8th in the NRL, you've won 50% of your games. That means you're average.
Yeah.
And then if you happen to get 4 games together where it clicks, you're called the champion.
Yep.
Whether that's by accident or design.
I think it makes it almost rarer.
Yeah.
I think it makes it an even harder task to attain.
Yeah. So, you didn't answer the question. Who's the better team? The team that finishes 5th and wins the grand final?
I believe
the team that finishes top of an equal ladder, home and away.
The team that finishes 5th and wins the grand final.
Okay.
Because it has those big moment players that we all watch. I think secretly we all love those players and we all love those teams more.
Yeah.
I think if you asked anyone on the streets at the moment whether they like watching Melbourne play or the Rabbitohs play, I think most people say they like watching the Rabbitohs play. They have that exciting brand of football. Those big, like Latrell, when he chimes in, it's genuinely electrifying when Cookie jumps out of dummy half and takes 30 metres and all of a sudden, Cody Walker pops out of nowhere and then Cameron Murray runs and has a tip on to Colin. I think people enjoy watching South Sydney more because they have lots of big moments.
Yeah.
Lots of big moments. And I think that's what our fans in our game are used to and we enjoy. And I think that's the mark of a really good side. I think that side is better than the team that wins the home and away.
Raneel, have you got an answer yet?
Yeah, well, I think...
Do you agree with Taylor?
I think this is also, biased here, but, growing up in Australia and, our Australian sport, how it's laid out with the final series. So I get that, what Taylor's saying, and agree. But speaking from a player's perspective, maybe, going round by round every week in, week out, and putting those points on the scoreboard, and to have it taken away by just one game, I would understand how the people who are saying it should be a point system. I get that point as well. Like, I don't really disagree with that either.
Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, I agree with Taylor. Basically, you've got, if a team is with no injuries, you're going to pretty much win a competition because they're the most consistent. When you've got injuries to major key players and that sort of stuff, that's why I think it is better that we've got the final series the way that we have. So,
sorry.
Can
I ask you a question, Lee?
Yeah.
Do you think the game could afford to switch to a point system? Do you think we could afford to lose the draw of a grand final and a final series?
Not at all. I think grand finals are scintillating. To the question of which is the better team, I'm going to sit on the fence because I think any team that wins through and wins a grand final deserves respect, big respect. But I also think a team that is consistent and wins every week is deserving of respect too. And I guess that's the Englishman in me, right? So, to your other question, I would like to see it not be top 8. I understand why it's top 8. It's to keep people interested and all this and blah, 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 blah. It's also to create more money so there's more matches, right? But I think finishing 8th, which is halfway down the ladder, how anybody can be happy with that season, if you really look at it for what it is.
There was an article that came out a couple of months ago, and it was written by Christian Welch, and it was on The Code, which is a new little journalistic website that's popping up. They make you pay a fee, all those sorts of things. Christian Welch wrote an article that he would actually like to see that the 6th, 7th and 8th playoff against 9th and 10th for the final 2 spots in the semis each year. And his theory was that you're going to keep the fans of those 9th and 10th sides more interested, more keen on it. And the side, every year you see some side, well, this year we haven't, some sides steam home and just missed out on the finals when they've got all this momentum. And it would open up the door for a side that maybe had a tough start to the year that comes home full of juice to sneak their way into the final series. And I'm not going to lie, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. It's going to be, some years it's going to be dud. Like this year, I think it genuinely could be a dud sort of game where they don't necessarily deserve it, the 9th and 10th. But one year you're going to have someone like, can you imagine if the Bulldogs kept plodding along the way they did? They scraped into 9th or 10th.
Yeah.
And then they beat 7th or 8th. And next thing you know, the Bulldogs are in the final series after they've had.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the fans?
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, that's where the game needs to be focusing on, fan engagement. And keeping
the conversation there, Taylor, because I just wanted to dip somewhere.
Okay, cool. Keeping the fans engaged in the competition and what's happening. Now you've heard that little theory that was put out by Christian Welch, who's a pretty smart guy. He's actually studied business and a few things like that, and he's openly said his goal is to become a CEO of an NRL club one day. So that could be a little look into the future. Raneel, are you opposed to that? I mean, it goes against what Lee said in shortening the semi-finals, but do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't really know too much about that side of it too, though. Really, gauge on it.
Well, you're a Dragons fan. You're a Dragons fan. It would open the door for a team like the Dragons this year. Ben Hunt. We've got a couple of very handy players. I don't know if you saw before, but that's a Dragons Cup. It's very faded because I think it's going to peel off when I start going for the Dolphins.
I see the fade, yeah.
But it would open the door for a St. George Illawarra Dragons to come through, possibly win 1 or 2 games and find themselves in maybe a grand final qualifier.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw another idea out there for you boys. Division 1, Division 2 NRL. They play off at the start of the year all in the same comp. Play each other at least once. And then it goes into a Division 1 and Division 2. Or we have a Division 1 and a Division 2, so there's a smaller comp.
8 and 8 split in half. Oh, well, the Dolphins will be next year, so you can't do that. So.
I think we're going close to 9 and 9, aren't we? I think there'll be an extra team. I'm just getting my food order. I'm going to eat well.
Yeah. Well,
it's one of them days, boys.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. To be honest, if we start looking down that path, I'd be almost keener to see a conference system than to split it like that.
I like the conference.
Like Super League, like Union, Rugby Union.
Yeah. I would like to see where instead of having to bring a team into the NRL like the Dolphins are just in the grand final one year. They play their grand final. They win, whatever. You get a week or 2 weeks off, and then you play against the 16th and whatever side it is in the NRL.
Yeah.
Then you're obviously going to have more of a stronger loan system, because you can't have all your players in the NRL squads just not playing if they're not in this team. But there's a way to do it. I mean, they do it in England. So there is a way to do it. I will be completely honest and say that I'm not all over what that would look like, what that would feel like. But I'm 100% open to hearing more about it. And I think it'll give, clubs like Brisbane Tigers, who have just missed out on expansion, a real path. The Brisbane Tigers are now looking at trying to become the 18th side. Well, they're going to struggle to be a third Brisbane side. Do they partner with, Ipswich and try to do that? Or do they look at relocating to Western Australia to get something done? Or, it's tough. But that would provide a path for those players, for sponsors and those clubs.
Here's another idea for you. I'm just full of them tonight. English Super League is called the NRL North. Australian NRL is called NRL South. The winner of each plays off in a World Super Bowl.
Well, I was just going to say, I was actually going to come to that too, because what Taylor's saying is right. But it, not just for Australia though. That sort of thing can open the doors worldwide, and pretty much come to what
Fiji.
you're saying, Lee. Yeah, Fiji.
Raneel can play for Fiji.
Yeah, I'll be the coach.
Yeah.
If I lose, I'm going to say, "Oh God, I learned from Lee Everson."
Yeah.
I like it, but just we don't have the planes that fly quick enough, in my opinion. We don't have the planes to fly quick enough to make that a viable option at the moment. Lee, you've probably done that trip numerous times.
You can always play it in Singapore or something.
We do. They just out of service.
Are you? Yeah. Are you going to get the crowds to Singapore? Are you going to get there's just? I think for a competition, for one-off game, best of Australia versus best of the Super League, the best NRL versus best Super League, that's a must. I think that must continue to happen. I love that concept. We need to find a way to link our two competitions in our two parts of the world together in that sense. But I just don't currently see it as a viable option for a week-to-week basis, purely on travel time. It's just not an option.
Third idea. I'm just getting rid of my food. Say something, boys. Well,
everyone stay quiet so it stays on lead.
What are you eating? What are you eating is probably my question.
A Philly steak wrap.
A Philly steak wrap? Where from?
Smoking burger joint or something.
Is this podcast being sponsored by them?
Is it smoking butts? Smoking
burgers and ribs.
Oh, right, okay.
And I've not got a burger. I've not got any ribs. An English team based in Perth playing in the NRL.
I'm not opposed to it, but what is it? Just Widnes wins the comp one year and comes over here. How do you do it?
An NRL side,
yeah,
based in Perth. You've got to be English or qualify for England to play for that club. The English Rugby League own it. Some fixtures are played in Perth, others on the Eastern Seaboard.
I don't mind it. I don't mind the idea at all if we can make it happen. I just don't like the exclusivity of having an NRL team that purely has English descendants.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then it's just, then you open it up to all sorts of things,
international game.
Or just a purely Indigenous side based out of somewhere, a Northern Territory, or a purely, do you know what I mean? I just don't, I don't like that. You're setting parameters. That's the beauty of our NRL at the moment. We have internationals for those reasons. We have one-off fixtures for those reasons. Would I like to see, another club come out of Perth? Yeah, sure. Do I think? I don't know. I'd like to see something where maybe a team from England comes over here for a season, or a team from NRL goes over there for a season. I don't know. That could be an option, but it's just
it'd make magic round even.
Oh well, could you imagine if Yeah, Magic Round would be good. Or could you imagine if the best 4 from the Super League come over and make up the other 4 of the top 8?
Oh,
That would be good.
Or 2 Super League sides come over and
battle 7th and 8th.
Battle 7th and 8th. You know, I don't see a reason why that can't happen.
We are clearly in the running to be the next ARLC commission. Because I'm the host tonight, I will have to be the chairman because I can chair the meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Boys, it's been an illuminating discussion. Yeah. Taylor, you've been in fine form. Some of your best comments tonight.
I was going to nominate myself for best on ground, but I'm glad you have for me.
Raneel, last week, Tim's hair looked just like yours. Thanks for joining us. We missed you last week. And I'm sorry about your dragons.
I did miss too.
Tim, you look scary, but we all know you're a lovely man.
Thanks, lads.
All good, boys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, you can sign off and finish off the big bag of dirty old chips I know you've got behind there.
Chicken wings.
Chicken wings.
Good old wings.
See you later, boys.
See you, gentlemen.
Cheers.